Have you ever noticed how your mind can be your best ally or your worst enemy? Right now, millions of thoughts are competing for your attention, and many of them are not on your side. But what if I told you there was a way to completely reprogram this internal chatter? What if there were mental codes that, once unlocked, could transform your relationship with anxiety, fear, and uncertainty forever? Welcome to our channel, where ancient philosophy meets modern science to heal wounded minds. Today we'll explore not just common positive affirmations, but real mind-openers based on 2,000 years of Stoic wisdom tested in the most extreme situations in human history. Forget those empty mantras you've tried before. What you'll discover today are empowering statements that work because they're based on principles that have transformed slaves into philosophers, emperors into sages, and ordinary people into mental giants who can weather any storm. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to unlock 10 specific codes in your mind. Each one is a key that opens a different door to your emotional freedom. By the end of this video, you won't be the same person you were when you started watching. You'll have in your hands tools that the great masters of humanity have used to maintain their peace of mind even in the darkest moments. Get ready for a journey of genuine transformation. Let's start by unlocking the first code that will completely change how you view control in your life. First statement: I only control my actions and reactions. Imagine a man in chains, forced into slavery, who finds a freedom that not even his masters possess. This man was Epictetus, and he discovered the most powerful code of the human mind, the difference between what is under our control and what is not. Right now, your mind is probably full of worries. What will your boss think about your work? How will your kids do in school? When will the economy improve? If you stop for a second and think about it, you'll realize something revolutionary. You're spending 80% of your mental energy on things that are completely out of your control. Epictetus, even though he was a slave, was freer than any free person of his time. Why? Because he had unlocked this first code: I control only my actions and reactions. He knew that while his body could be imprisoned, his mind remained sovereign. He could choose how to respond to any situation, how to interpret any event, how to react to any provocation. You might be thinking, but that's easy to say when you have no real responsibilities. Let me show you how to apply this in practice. Imagine you're stuck in traffic, late for an important meeting. Your first impulse is to freak out, honk your horn, and swear at other drivers. But at that moment, you remember the code: I control only my actions and reactions. The traffic? Out of your control. The meeting that has already started? Out of your control. The impression others will have of you being late? Out of your control. But you're breathing at this moment? Under your control. Your body posture? Under your control. The message you can send explaining the situation? Under your control. The quality of your participation when you finally arrive? Totally under your control. See how your mental energy instantly changes when you stop fighting the uncontrollable and redirect all your energy toward what you can actually influence. It's like 100-pound weight has been lifted off your shoulders and you discover that you can run. Here's a life-changing exercise you can do right now. Take a situation that's causing you anxiety. Draw 2 circles on a piece of paper. In the first circle, write down everything about the situation that's out of your control. In the second circle, write down everything that's within your control. You'll be shocked at what you discover. Most people live with their mental energy completely dispersed, trying to control time, other people's opinions, the future, the past. But when you deeply internalize this code, something magical happens. You become a force of nature, because all your energy is focused on what really matters. Marcus Aurelius, the world's most powerful emperor, wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not over external events." Realize this, and you will find strength. He knew that even as emperor, he could not control the plagues that ravaged Rome. He could not control the wars on its borders. He could not control human mortality. But he could control how he responded to them. This code is not about passive resignation. It is about focused power. It is about becoming a person who acts with purpose rather than reacting with despair. It is about discovering that you already have everything you need to be free, regardless of external circumstances. When you truly internalize "I control only my actions and reactions," you free yourself from the prison of anxiety, because anxiety is always about trying to control the uncontrollable. You free yourself from chronic frustration, because frustration is always about expecting the world to be different than it is. You free yourself from feelings of powerlessness, because you discover that your real power has always been within you. But this is just the first code. The next one will show you how to deal with the real villain of your peace of mind, your own automatic thoughts. Second statement: my thoughts are passing, I am not obliged to follow them. There is a tyrant living in your head, and he doesn't rest even when you sleep. He whispers that you are not capable, that something terrible is going to happen, that you should have done things differently. This tyrant disguises himself as you, but in reality he is just an outdated mental program that you can turn off. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man of his time, faced the same tyrant. In his personal meditations, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But he went further. He discovered that he had power even over the thoughts that appeared unbidden in his mind. The second code I'm going to unlock for you is revolutionary. My thoughts are fleeting, I don't have to follow them. This code alone can end years of therapy, because it cuts the problem at its root. Observe your mind right now. How many thoughts have appeared since you started watching this video? Thoughts about other tasks, about pending problems, about the future, about the past. Did you consciously choose each of them? Of course not. They simply appeared, like clouds in the sky. Here's the revelation that changes everything: you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. There is a fundamental difference between having a thought and being dominated by it. When you think, "I'm a failure," that's not a fact about you, it's just a passing thought that has popped into your consciousness. Imagine your mind as a radio station that picks up different frequencies. Sometimes it picks up catastrophic news stations, sometimes sad music, sometimes advertisements for products you don't need. But you are not the radio station, you are the one who decides which frequency to tune into. When a self-sabotaging thought comes up, instead of panicking or trying to suppress it, you simply notice it. Look, a self-sabotaging thought just came up. It's like watching a car drive down the street. You don't have to chase it or try to stop it. You just let it go. This simple yet profound technique will free you from decades of mental imprisonment. Because the truth is that you have been living as a hostage to the first thoughts that pop into your head, without realizing that you can choose which ones to follow and which ones to ignore. Here's a practical exercise. For the next 5 minutes, observe your thoughts as if you were a scientist studying an interesting species. Don't judge them, don't try to change them, just observe. Oh, a thought about food. Oh, a thought about that argument yesterday. Oh, a thought about the future. You'll discover something surprising. When you stop resisting thoughts or completely identifying with them, they lose their power over you. They keep coming back, but you're no longer their victim. You become the director of your own mental experience. The Stoics called this the discipline of desire, the ability to observe mental impulses without being automatically controlled by them. Seneca practiced this religiously, examining his conscience every night, noting which thoughts had appeared during the day and which he had chosen to follow. This code is not about having an empty mind that is impossible and unnecessary. It is about becoming selective with your thoughts, like a museum curator who carefully chooses which pieces deserve to be displayed. You can have 1,000 thoughts an hour, but you only need to follow the ones that serve your well-being and your goals. When you master this code, anxiety loses its power, because you realize that anxious thoughts are only temporary visitors, not permanent residents of your mind. But to apply this power even more effectively, you need the third code, which turns even your worst experiences into fuel for your growth. Third statement: this difficult time is an opportunity for growth. There is a secret power hidden within every crisis, and only those who know the correct code can access it. This power transformed a Roman emperor into a philosopher, a slave into a teacher of humanity, and it can transform you into someone who not only survives the storms, but uses them to become stronger. Marcus Aurelius faced empire-decimating plagues, decades-long wars, political betrayals, and the deaths of beloved sons. But instead of becoming bitter or defeated, he discovered something revolutionary: the impediment to action promotes action. What stands in the way becomes the way. He had unlocked the third code of the human mind. Right now, you're probably facing something difficult. It could be a loss, a rejection, a financial problem, a relationship crisis, a health issue. Your mind is programmed to see this as a curse, as evidence that life is unfair to you. But what if I told you that you're looking at it completely wrong? The third code is, this difficult time is an opportunity for growth. This is not superficial positive thinking, it is mental alchemy. It is the ability to turn lead into gold, to convert poison into medicine, to use the storm itself as the wind in your sails. Let me show you how this works in practice. Imagine that you have just lost your job. Your first reaction is panic, shame, fear for the future. But when you apply the third code, you start asking different questions. What skills is this situation forcing me to develop? What aspects of my professional life really needed to be rethought? What opportunities were being blocked by my previous job? Suddenly, you realize that this crisis is forcing you to step out of your comfort zone, to develop courage, to rethink your priorities, to discover inner resources that you didn't even know you had. The loss of your job becomes a school of entrepreneurship, self-knowledge, and resilience. This isn't about denying pain or pretending everything is okay. It's about recognizing that pain has an evolutionary purpose. Just as physical pain warns us of dangers to the body, emotional pain signals us about aspects of our lives that need attention, change, or growth. Epictetus, who lived through the most extreme experience of adversity, slavery, developed a wisdom that free men have spent decades learning. He said, "It is not events that upset people, but the judgments they make about them." His physical slavery became his mental freedom, because he learned to draw powerful lessons from every humiliation, every hardship, every injustice. Here's a transformative exercise. Think about the biggest challenge you've faced in the past 5 years. Now, list 5 skills, qualities, or insights that you developed specifically because of that challenge. You'll be surprised to find that your greatest internal achievements were born out of your greatest external challenges. When you truly internalize this code, something magical happens. You stop being afraid of the future, because you know that you can turn any obstacle into an opportunity. You stop victimizing yourself, because you understand that every difficulty is a chance to evolve. You stop avoiding challenges, because you recognize that they are what shape your character. Seneca, the emperor's advisor, voluntarily practiced poverty for a few days each month, sleeping on the floor and eating only bread and water. Why? To train his mind to find strength in any circumstance, to prove to himself that he could be happy even without luxuries, to transform his fear of loss into confidence in his own ability to adapt. This code is not about becoming a masochist or seeking out suffering. It is about becoming someone who cannot be broken by circumstances, because you know how to extract value from any experience. It is about understanding that the same fire that melts wax hardens steel, and you can choose to be steel. When you master this code, you become a different person. You become someone others turn to in tough times, because you exude a confidence that comes from knowing you can handle anything. But to sustain that confidence, you need a solid foundation, which comes from the fourth code, an unshakable belief in your own adaptability. Fourth statement, I am resilient and able to adapt to circumstances. There is a force within you that has survived 100% of your worst experiences thus far. This force has carried you through loss, rejection, fear, and uncertainty. It has brought you to this moment, alive and functioning. But here's the problem, you probably don't even recognize this force, because you're too busy doubting yourself. The fourth code will awaken this dormant strength. I am resilient and able to adapt to circumstances. It's not arrogance, it's personal archaeology, it's discovering treasures of strength that are already buried in your own history. Think about it for a moment. You've made it through the first day of school, even though it was scary. You've faced heartbreaks and survived. You've dealt with the death of loved ones. You've navigated career changes, family crises, health issues. Each situation seemed impossible at the time, but here you are, on the other side. The difference between resilient people and fragile people is not the absence of fear or pain, it's the belief that they can handle whatever comes their way. This belief is not based on fantasy, but on concrete evidence from their own story of overcoming. Here's an eye-opening exercise. Take a mental inventory of the 5 most difficult situations you've ever faced. For each one, identify, what inner resources did you discover? What skills did you develop? What aspects of your personality were strengthened? You'll discover that you have an arsenal of capabilities you never imagined. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayals, wars, plagues, and devastating personal losses. But he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He knew that resilience is not about controlling what happens, but about trusting in your own ability to respond constructively. True confidence comes not from an easy life, but from a life well navigated. Every storm you have faced has been a lesson in piloting. Every crisis has been a survival training. Every loss has been a lesson in your own ability to recover and rebuild. When you internalize this code, you stop living in fear of the future. You stop losing sleepless nights imagining catastrophic scenarios because you know you have the ability to deal with any scenario that materializes. You stop avoiding necessary risks because you trust in your ability to navigate the consequences. Seneca regularly practiced negative visualization, imagining potential losses not to torture himself, but to prove to himself that he could be happy even in the worst circumstances. He knew that genuine confidence comes from testing and proving one's own resilience. This code isn't about never failing or never feeling fear. It's about knowing that you can fail and bounce back, you can feel fear and still act, you can be knocked down and still get back up. It's about understanding that adaptability is your natural superpower. But even with all this resilience, you still need a filter to distinguish between truth and illusion, between what strengthens you and what weakens you. This is where the 5th code comes in, which will revolutionize your relationship with reality. 5th statement: I prefer the uncomfortable truth to the comfortable illusion. There is an addictive drug that most people use every day without realizing it. This drug creates a temporary sense of comfort, but it slowly erodes your ability to cope with reality. It keeps you trapped in toxic relationships, inadequate jobs, and self-sabotaging patterns. This drug is delusion, and the antidote is the 5th code. Seneca, one of the wealthiest and most influential men in Rome, practiced a disturbing ritual every night. He brutally examined his actions of the day, questioned his motives, admitted his mistakes, and confronted his weaknesses without mercy. Why would someone at the height of power and wealth submit himself to such self-discipline? Because he had discovered that the truth, even when it hurts, is always more liberating than the comforting lie. The 5th code is, I prefer uncomfortable truth to comfortable illusion. This code is like a mental scalpel that cuts through the layers of self-deception that keep you stuck in destructive patterns. Right now, there are truths about your life that you're avoiding. Maybe it's about that relationship that you know isn't working, but you keep pretending it's going to get better. Maybe it's about your financial habits that you know are unsustainable, but you keep justifying them. Maybe it's about your physical health that you know is deteriorating, but you keep ignoring it. Delusion whispers, you can deal with it later. It's not as bad as it seems. Things will work themselves out. Truth screams, you need to face it now. It's exactly as bad as it seems. Nothing changes until you change. Here's the paradox: truth hurts for the moment, but liberates forever. Delusion comforts for the moment, but imprisons forever. When you choose the uncomfortable truth, you gain the power to change. When you choose the comfortable illusion, you lose the power to choose. Imagine that you finally admit that you're in a job that you hate, that's making you miserable, and that's getting you nowhere. This admission hurts, it causes anxiety, it forces you to confront fears about financial security and self-worth. But this same admission also frees you to explore alternatives, to develop new skills, to make changes that can transform your life. Marcus Aurelius, even as an emperor, wrote to himself, "Be like a rock against which the waves continually break. It stands firm, and the troubled waters around it are calmed." He knew that facing the truth about plagues, wars, and betrayals was less destructive than living in denial. Here's a courageous exercise. identify 3 areas of your life where you suspect you're deluding yourself. For each, ask, what is the truth I'm avoiding? What is the cost of continuing this delusion? What specific action would I take if I faced this truth? When you embrace this code, you become a different person. You become someone who can be trusted with the truth, including by yourself. You become someone others look to when they need an honest perspective, because you are not afraid to see things as they really are. The truth is not your enemy, it is your most powerful ally. It may be uncomfortable, but it is always helpful. It may be painful, but it is always liberating. It may be scary, but it is always empowering. But there is an even deeper truth waiting for you, the truth about where your true value as a human being lies. And that is what the 6th code will reveal. 6th statement, my value does not depend on the approval of others. There is an invisible prison that holds millions of people captive, and the keys are always in someone else's hands. Prisoners spend their entire lives trying to please the guards, modifying their behavior, their opinions, even their personality in the hopes of gaining approval. But here's the secret that no one tells you, you have always held the key to get out of this prison. Epictetus, who knew both physical slavery and mental freedom, taught, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. He was talking about more than money, he was talking about emotional freedom. And the greatest need that imprisons people is the need for external approval. The 6th code will break these invisible chains. My worth does not depend on the approval of others. This code is not about becoming insensitive or arrogant, it is about discovering a source of self-worth that no one can take away from you. Right now, how many of your decisions are based on fear of judgment? How many times have you failed to express your opinion because someone might disagree? How many opportunities have you missed because you were afraid of looking foolish? How many times have you betrayed yourself in order to be accepted? Dependence on external approval is like living on an emotional roller coaster where you have no control over the ups and downs. When someone praises you, you soar. When someone criticizes you, you plummet. When someone ignores you, you disappear. Your self-esteem becomes hostage to other people's mood swings. But here's the liberating truth, other people's opinions of you say more about them than they do about you. When someone criticizes you, they're filtering you through their own experiences, traumas, fears, and limitations. When someone compliments you, they're projecting their own needs and desires onto you. In both cases, you're being judged not for who you really are, but for who they need you to be. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, wrote, "How little you care what others think of you when you are on your deathbed." He knew that external approval is a currency that quickly loses value, but internal approval is a treasure that appreciates in value over time. Here's a transformative exercise. Make a list of the 5 people whose approval you most seek. For each one, ask yourself, why does this person's opinion have so much power over me? What qualities do I admire about them that I already have? What would happen if I gave myself the approval I'm seeking from them? When you internalize this code, something magical happens. You become more attractive to the right people. Paradoxically, when you stop desperately seeking approval, you become someone people naturally respect and admire. You radiate an authentic confidence that is magnetic. Seneca practiced regular self-evaluation based on his own values, not on public opinion. He asked, did I act with integrity today? Did I treat others with compassion? Did I live by my principles? These questions created an internal system of validation that did not depend on an external audience. This code doesn't mean you should completely ignore feedback from others. It means you should filter that feedback through your own value system. It means you should seek advice from wise people, but make your own decisions. It means you should be kind to others, but not at the expense of your authenticity. When you master this code, you free yourself to be truly yourself. You stop wearing social masks that suffocate you. You stop living a life that feels right to others but feels wrong to you. You stop seeking external validation for decisions that only you can make. The true approval you seek already exists within you, waiting to be discovered. And now that you have found this inner source of value, you are ready for the next code, which will transform your relationship with the present moment. 7th affirmation, I practice gratitude for what I have in the present. There's a fascinating experiment that has completely changed modern neuroscience. Researchers asked people to write down 3 things they were grateful for every day for just 1 week. The result? Permanent changes in brain structure, increased natural dopamine, significantly improved sleep, and a 25% reduction in symptoms of depression. But Marcus Aurelius knew this 2,000 years ago. Every morning, even as he faced plagues that decimated his empire and wars that lasted decades, the world's most powerful emperor wrote detailed lists of gratitude in his personal diary. Not out of religious obligation or forced optimism, but because he had discovered the 7th code of the human mind. Gratitude is the mental frequency that tunes you into the abundance that already exists in your life. The 7th code is, I practice gratitude for what I have in the present. But be careful, we're not talking about the superficial gratitude you post on social media. We're talking about gratitude as a mental reprogramming tool that can change your reality in a matter of minutes. Right now, your mind is probably focused on what's missing. The bill you can't pay, the relationship that isn't working, the career that isn't taking off, the health that isn't perfect. This focus on what's missing is like a magnet that attracts more scarcity, more dissatisfaction, more anxiety about the future. But here is the secret that will revolutionize your experience of life: you are surrounded by miracles that have become invisible through familiarity. You are breathing right now without conscious effort, a process involving trillions of cells working in perfect harmony. You can see these words, a phenomenon that scientists still do not fully understand. Your heart has beat more than 100,000 times since yesterday, without you having to remind it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, when you wake up in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. He wasn't being poetic. He was being strategic. He knew that starting your day with gratitude programs your mind to see opportunities instead of obstacles, solutions instead of problems. Here's an exercise that will change your life if you do it consistently. Every night before you go to sleep, write down 3 specific things you're grateful for. But don't be generic. Instead of I'm grateful for my family, write I'm grateful for the smile my daughter gave me when she came home from school today. Instead of I'm grateful for my health, write I'm grateful that I was able to walk up the stairs without getting out of breath today. Specificity trains your mind to notice positive details that would normally go unnoticed. Within 2 weeks of practicing, you'll find that your mind automatically starts looking for things to be grateful for throughout the day. It's as if you've changed the filters of your perception. Seneca practiced what he called exercises in voluntary deprivation. He occasionally slept on the floor, ate only bread and water, and wore simple clothing. This was not out of masochism, but to develop genuine gratitude for the comforts he had. He discovered that gratitude does not come naturally, it must be cultivated intentionally. But be careful, there is a difference between authentic gratitude and toxic gratitude. Toxic gratitude denies legitimate emotions and forces positivity where it doesn't belong. Authentic gratitude acknowledges real challenges, but chooses to also focus on what is working, what is possible, what has already been achieved. When you master this code, you become a different person. You become someone who radiates genuine contentment, who finds joy in small moments, who doesn't need external achievements to feel fulfilled. You become someone others want to be around, because your energy is magnetic and restorative. Gratitude is not just a feeling, it is a wisdom practice that recognizes that this moment, with all its imperfections, is the only moment you truly have. And when you learn to be grateful for the present, you are ready for the 8th code, which will completely transform your relationships with other people. 8th statement, I treat others with compassion, remembering that everyone faces internal struggles. There is a truth about human nature that, once revealed, can put an end to years of anger, resentment, and unnecessary conflict. This truth has been hidden in plain sight, but you've probably never really stopped to look at it. Marcus Aurelius discovered it by observing slaves and senators, soldiers and philosophers alike, and noticed something that completely changed how he treated every person he met. That person who cut you off in traffic this morning. They might be rushing to the hospital because they got a call about a loved one. That coworker who always seems irritable. They might be dealing with financial issues that would keep you up at night. That person on social media who made a hurtful comment. They might be going through the worst time of their life and taking their pain out on others. The 8th code will revolutionize all your relationships. I treat others with compassion, remembering that everyone faces internal struggles. This code is not about being passive or allowing abuse. It is about responding rather than reacting, about choosing strength over weakness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Whenever you want to rejoice, consider the good qualities of your fellow men." But he went further. He developed the ability to see the unspoken struggles behind even the most difficult behaviors. He knew that hurt people, and that compassion is both a shield and a sword. Think about the last time someone was rude to you. Your automatic reaction was probably anger, indignation, and a desire to retaliate. But what would happen if, at the moment of rudeness, you reminded yourself, this person is acting out of pain? What internal pain could cause this external behavior? This simple shift in perspective changes everything. Instead of adding more anger to the world, you add understanding. Instead of escalating conflict, you diffuse it. Instead of leaving the encounter more stressed, you leave it wiser. Here's a powerful exercise. For the next week, whenever someone displays difficult behavior, impatience, aggression, coldness, pause mentally and ask, what kind of internal pain could be causing this external behavior? Not to justify the behavior, but to respond with wisdom rather than reactivity. Epictetus, who knew both human cruelty and kindness, taught, when someone insults you, remember that they are only expressing their opinion based on what they believe to be true. It is not for you to be upset by it. He knew that other people's reactions say more about them than it does about you. This perspective doesn't mean you should accept poor treatment. It means you can set boundaries firmly but without malice. You can protect yourself without attacking. You can disagree without demonizing. You can be strong without being cruel. When you treat others with compassion, something magical happens. You become a healing force in the world. People begin to calm down in your presence. Conflicts are resolved more easily when you are involved. You become someone others turn to for wisdom or support. Seneca practiced daily what he called active benevolence, looking for opportunities to be kind, helpful, compassionate, even to people who didn't deserve it. He found that this practice benefited him more than it benefited others, because it cultivated virtues that strengthened him internally. Compassion is not weakness, it is sophisticated emotional intelligence. It is the ability to see beyond the surface, to respond to the cause rather than the symptom, to break cycles of negativity rather than perpetuating them. But to apply this compassion wisely and effectively, you need the 9th code, which will teach you to distinguish between what deserves your energy and what does not. 9th affirmation, I accept what I cannot change and ACT on what I can influence. There is a prayer that has changed millions of lives, but few know that its principles were first articulated 2,000 years ago by a slave who became one of humanity's greatest teachers. The Serenity Prayer perfectly echoes Stoic wisdom, the ability to distinguish between what is within our control and what is not. But this distinction is not just philosophical, it is the difference between a life of focused power and a life of wasted energy. Epictetus discovered that freedom comes not from getting what you want, but from wanting what you can control. Marcus Aurelius applied this principle to ruling an empire. He could not control plagues, revolts, or invasions, but he could control how he responded to each crisis. This wisdom became the 9th code that can transform your life. The 9th code is, I accept what I cannot change and act on what I can influence. This code is like a mental GPS that always shows you the most efficient route to any destination, eliminating unnecessary detours that only waste fuel without taking you anywhere. Right now, your mind is probably carrying worries about things completely outside of your control. You're anxious about the economy, about political decisions, about what other people think of you, about events that may or may not happen in the future. This wasted mental energy is like trying to push a car with the brakes on, too much effort, too little result. Here's an exercise that will immediately change how you use your mental energy. Take a sheet of paper and draw 2 circles. In the first circle, list everything about your current situation that is beyond your control. In the second, everything that is within your control or influence. you'll be shocked at what you discover. In the first circle are probably things like the past, the distant future, other people's decisions, the global economy, the weather, what others think about you. In the second circle are your actions in the present moment, your emotional reactions, your effort, your attitude, your words, your daily choices. Now comes the revolutionary part. From today on, you will invest 100% of your mental energy in the second circle. Every time your mind starts to worry about something in the first circle, you will gently direct it to the second. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He ruled an empire, but he knew that his true influence was limited to his own choices and reactions. Even the most powerful man in the world could not control everything, and this freed him to be extraordinarily effective at what he could control. Imagine how your life changes when you stop wasting mental energy trying to control the uncontrollable. All that anxiety about the future turns into productive action in the present. All that frustration with other people turns into focus on your own excellence. All that concern for results turns into dedication to the process. Seneca regularly practiced an exercise called premeditatio malorum, imagining potential losses not to torture himself, but to mentally prepare himself and identify what would be within his control even in the worst-case scenarios. He found that this exercise eliminated anticipatory anxiety and increased his confidence in his own adaptability. Here's another powerful exercise. Identify the situation that's causing you the most stress right now. Now ask yourself, if I were a consultant hired to solve this situation, where would I focus my attention? What specific actions would I recommend? You'll find that there's always something you can do, even when it feels like you have no control. This code is not about passive resignation, it is about concentrated power. It is about becoming a force of nature because all your energy is directed where it can really make a difference. It is about discovering that you have much more power than you imagined, but that this power was being diluted by useless worry. When you master this code, you become a person whom others admire for your calm in the midst of chaos, for your effectiveness in difficult situations, for your ability to remain calm when everyone around you is losing theirs. But there is one final code, the most powerful of all, that will seal your transformation. 10th statement, I live by my values, regardless of external circumstances. There is a test that instantly reveals a person's character, and it's not a test you take, it's a test life throws at you. This test doesn't happen when everything is going well, when you're being watched, when there are visible rewards for good conduct. This test happens when you're alone, when no one will know, when doing the right thing will cost you something important. And it's at that moment that you discover who you really are. Marcus Aurelius faced this test repeatedly. As emperor, he could have indulged in corruption, abused power, or revenge against enemies. But he chose to live by principles that he considered more important than convenience, comfort, or even survival. He had discovered the 10th and most powerful code of the human mind. The 10th code is, I live according to my values, regardless of external circumstances. This code is the difference between being a leaf in the wind and being a tree with deep roots. It is the difference between changing your personality according to the situation and having a solid identity that remains constant through all the storms. But here's the problem, most people have never clearly defined their values. They live on borrowed morality, reacting to situations based on momentary impulses, social pressures, or personal convenience. They are like ships without a compass, changing direction with the wind, never reaching a true destination. Right now, stop and ask yourself, what are the 5 core values that define who you are? Not what you think you should value, not what others expect you to value, but what genuinely moves your heart and guides your most important decisions. Maybe it's honesty, the courage to tell the truth even when it's inconvenient. Maybe it's compassion, the choice to be kind even when others are cruel. Maybe it's growth, the commitment to evolve even when change is uncomfortable. Maybe it's justice, the determination to do what's right even when there's a price to pay. Epictetus, who lived through both slavery and freedom, discovered that inner values cannot be chained by external circumstances. Even when his body was imprisoned, his mind remained free to choose integrity over expediency, dignity over submission, wisdom over ignorance. Here's a life-changing exercise. Identify a current situation where you know what action would be aligned with your values, but you're hesitating because of the potential consequences. Now ask yourself, if I were reminded of this decision on my deathbed, what would I be more proud of, having acted with integrity or having avoided temporary discomfort? When you live according to your values, something extraordinary happens. You develop an inner peace that is independent of external circumstances. You may face criticism, loss, and disappointment, but you maintain a deep serenity because you know you are being true to yourself. Seneca wrote, "Every man is as much as he appears to be." But he knew that the true measure of a man is not how he appears to others, but how he behaves when no one is looking, when there are no visible rewards, when doing the right thing requires personal sacrifice. This code is not about perfection, it's about direction. It's not about never failing, it's about always coming back to your principles when you stray. It's not about judging others, it's about personal responsibility for the person you choose to be. When you master this 10th code, you become that rare person in the world, someone who can be trusted completely, who maintains consistency of character through all circumstances, who inspires others by the example of unwavering integrity. You now have the 10 codes. But having the codes is not enough, you need to apply them. And that is what we are going to do now, transforming knowledge into real transformation. You've come this far because something inside you has recognized that these aren't just pretty concepts, they're real keys to an extraordinary life. Over the past few minutes, we've unlocked 10 mindsets together that have the power to completely transform your life experience. But here's the truth, knowledge without application is just intellectual entertainment. To quickly recap the codes you now possess: the power to focus only on what you control, the freedom to observe thoughts without being dominated by them, the ability to turn obstacles into opportunities, the evidence-based confidence of your own resilience, the courage to choose truth over illusion, the emotional independence of the approval of others, the wealth that comes from genuine gratitude, the wisdom to treat others with compassion, the serenity to accept the unacceptable and act on the possible, and finally, the integrity to live your values regardless of the circumstances. But don't try to implement all 10 codes at once. Choose 2 or 3 that best suit your current situation. Maybe you urgently need the first code to deal with anxiety. Maybe the 6th code is crucial for your self-esteem. Maybe the 9th code is just what you need to focus your mental energy. Create practical reminders, write your chosen code on Post-its, set alarms on your phone, make it your lock screen. Constant repetition is necessary because you are literally reprogramming neural patterns that have been formed over decades. Practice the Stoic examination of conscience every night. Review your day and identify moments where you successfully applied the codes and moments where you forgot to apply them. Without judgment, only with the intention of learning and improving. Remember, the Stoics were not abstract theorists. They were practical people who had faced war, loss, betrayal, and disease, and discovered that these codes work in the most difficult real-life situations. If they worked for them, they can work for you. The transformation you seek will not happen overnight, but it can begin right now. With each conscious application of these codes, you become a little freer, a little stronger, a little wiser. You have the keys. Now use them to open the door to your own freedom. If this video unlocked something in you, if you felt that these codes could change your life, do 2 things now. First, leave a like so that this knowledge reaches more people who need it. Second, in the comments, tell me which of the 10 codes impacted you the most and why. Your answer may be exactly what someone else needs to read today. Subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this, because we have much more Stoic wisdom to explore together. And remember, you are not just a spectator, you are a practitioner of the philosophy that can transform lives. Until the next video, stay strong.